an interesting 24 hours where virtually nothing except everything has happened for the Chicago Bears. It looks like they're looking for new property. There's a lot of speculation on the new stadium. We've got a breaking report where one of the guys, you know who I'm talking about, one of the guys is out here looking for apartments in downtown Chicago. What does that mean broadly for the Chicago Bears for the draft? What does it mean? I don't think it really means anything, but it is interesting to see what we've got happening out here, and all of the zest we're putting into a 21-year-old guy who's just kind of running around Instagram checking stuff out. So before we get started, though, before we get started, please, um, uh, for me, as a favor, make sure you hit that like button on the way in, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are getting a pretty good amount of engagement, but not as many follows. If you don't like the content, I understand. But if you do like the content, please make sure that you hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell to be notified. So, but the first and foremost big thing, and we got a lot to really kind of go over here today, is this right here came out yesterday. Caleb Williams was on Instagram and he was liking this from the Michaels Combo group. You and your two best friends can rent this 55th floor, 3-bedroom, 3-bath apartment in downtown Chicago with over 70,000 square foot of amenities for only 2186 per month each. So looks like that Caleb Williams is looking around at somewhere to rent. Now it would make sense. It would make way more sense to me that this is not really the thing that we think that it is. I can't imagine at this point anybody's told Caleb Williams, "Hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna bring you in. It's a done deal." They're gonna work him out. They're gonna go through the process here. So I don't think that this is a thing yet. We've got Carlos in the house with JF1, and we've got Yataj. Oh man, I'm gonna have a Yataz Yatazak Yatazachka. I'm doing my best here. What's going on, my man? But it looks like Caleb Williams is out here looking for property, and I don't think this is a big deal. I think this is just him kind of kicking the tires just to see what's going on in Chicago, just in case. I don't. There's no way in my mind that Kevin Poles has already that has already come here and done anything. Yata Zakwa. Okay, there we go. Got it. All right, man. Yata Zakwa. Hope I said that right that time. But it seems like he's just kind of messing around. Maybe just hanging out with his buddies. Like, you know what? Let's look for a place in Chicago just in case the Bears come calling. And then he's looking at his friends like, yeah, bro, they're coming calling. You know what I mean? Because he's Caleb Williams. So why wouldn't you? But, interesting to see how this is all playing out. So that was the breaking news. That was the big thing that people seem to be super, super hyped about. And look, that led to a lot of fighting on Twitter over the last 24 hours as people were looking at this saying, oh, that means he's coming. And then, any Justin Maxey that's out there is having a fit saying this is, can't do this. This is crazy. Like, why would you get this guy? He's only 6'1". Well, how tall are you, bro? And he's like 5'7". I could quarterback too. You know what I mean? Like a little bit weird, but I mean, look, it's a 21-year-old kid doing whatever 21-year-old kids do when they're not in college, doing whatever 21-year-old kids do in college. Experiment, do whatever. But anyway, so I don't think you should read too much into this, but that's a little bit of preparation for him just in case. And to be fair, like I can't imagine he's going to spend $7,000 a month on an apartment when he could just get himself. He's gonna get himself a nice house or something like that in the suburbs. You know what I mean? So listen, I don't think it's a thing. So, but let's move on. We got another one. why Chicago decided to hire Chris Beatty. Now, if you don't know, and you've been sleeping under a rock, Chris Beatty's been hired as the wide receivers coach over here. Not only is he a pretty elite guy, and I do want to say Ike Hilliard, the old receiver out of Florida, who's now a coach at wide receiver, like it seemed like a really good get, and they ended up going with Chris Beatty. But the biggest reason Chris Beatty has a connection with DJ Moore. Chris Beatty was at Maryland as a wide receivers coach in 2016 and 2017 when DJ Moore was there. After Moore left, he was promoted to co-offensive coordinator and then assistant head coach, probably because he was such a success with Moore. The reality is that if Moore gives him a ringing endorsement, they should probably hire him. Moore is their best receiver, their leader on the offense, and one of the staples who will be here the longest. His input had to matter here. Now, remember, DJ Moore's input so far has also been that we want Justin Fields to return. So in the event that he does have a say-so, then it is entirely possible that we're looking at DJ Moore swaying the votes in the direction of, and by the way, it doesn't matter what happens here. I know we talk a lot about whether it's going to be Caleb, whether it's going to be Justin, and would the team kind of rebel if it were not Justin? Because I mean, the team to a man really likes Justin Fields, everything about him. So would they rebel? No. These are $1 million professionals, or at least several $100,000 professionals. They're not going to rebel and not play football because their favorite guy is not playing quarterback. I mean, it's kind of silly to think that. It's fun when you're a fan to think that, it'd be awesome if the team walked out because we didn't get what we wanted. It doesn't work that way. They're going to do the best job that they can with anybody who's at that position. So I do want to stress that, I don't think that's, just doesn't matter who they want. It's who they have that's going to matter the most. While Ike Hilliard is coaching the NFL, he did not start coaching until 2009 because of his playing career. Beatty was coaching back in 1998. Beatty also was in the NFL last year, whereas Hilliard was at Auburn last year. He was working with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and worked up from college, while Hilliard started in the NFL and jumped down from college. Chris Beatty has a history of developing wide receivers. And by the way, some names that he is associated with are, and this, by the way, guys, I want you to know that this is one of my favorite college players of all time, and that is Noel Devine. I saw Noel Devine in high school. He's running back, by the way, not a wide receiver, just in case anybody was curious, but Noel Devine was one of the greatest running backs coming out of high school that you had ever seen. Was a fantastic runner at West Virginia. However, that just did not translate to the NFL. Whether he didn't get a fair shake or whatever the case may be, it just did not work out for Noel Devine in the NFL. So, but in college, I think the guy averaged like 7.8 yards a carry or more in 2 seasons back to back. It's a fantastic runner, but a runner, not a receiver. So, but Tavon Austin, Jordan Matthews at Vanderbilt, Jared Abbrederis and Alex Erickson at Wisconsin, DJ Moore at Maryland, Jordan Addison at Pittsburgh. The last two caused his ascension to the NFL. He has the development of receivers, the handling of NFL receivers, and the relationship with DJ Moore. This hiring makes sense for the Chicago Bears. It's a very good hire, by the way. This seems to be a very good hire. Now, this, by the way, does change a little bit, in my opinion, on maybe, just maybe, Darnell Mooney is worth one more year. Now, at this point, it looks like Darnell Mooney would be on the outs, but with the low overhead of bringing him back for a final year, at least one last opportunity. With him still being under his rookie contract, it would be inexpensive to bring him in as a receiver, especially if you're going heavy on wide receivers in a draft. This is, Darnell Mooney does become a good option, at least a viable option for you in that regard. So That does change my mind a little bit. I know it was just yesterday, by the way, and Chris B had already been hired, where I was saying Darnell Mooney's probably on the outs, but at the expense, at the cost that it would be, maybe Darnell Mooney is now going to be the guy that comes back, and maybe, just maybe, Chris Beatty's the guy to tap into what we really kind of saw as some untapped potential out of Darnell Mooney over the last little while. So, he did have some pretty good seasons previously. So now the other thing is the Bears have finally filled out their offensive coaching roster here with former Panthers offensive coordinator Thomas Brown. He is joining the Bears as their pass game coordinator. It is important to understand that the Chicago Bears, by all accounts here, are going all in on their passing game. So you have we are getting Shane Waldron. Um, we've got Kerry Joseph as quarterback coach. We've got Chris Beatty as wide receivers, and now we've got Thomas Brown as the passing game coordinator. Brown was voted the NFL's #2 OC in a recent NFLPA player poll. It's a reunion for him and Shane Waldron. So they're going all in on the passing game. Now, it doesn't matter whether at this point it's Caleb Williams or Justin Fields. There is still a debate to be had on whether it should be or could be Caleb Williams, Justin Fields. It doesn't matter. Here's what matters. We now have a coaching staff completely overhauled that gives us this looks like, on paper at least, and I can't say that it is because we haven't seen the product yet. We thought Luke Getsy kind of had the ability, or at least many of us thought Luke Getsy had the ability to be this kind of guy. And it was clear that he did not understand his players and he did not design his offense around his players. He designed his offense and then forced the players to kind of adapt to it. And that's not a great look. That's not a great look. That's not what you want from an OC coming in, and that's bad. So that's what ended up happening, though. And Matt Eberflus, I really think he should have stepped in and done something about it, but he didn't. So here we are. But this feels different. Shane Waldron, and by the way, I do want to say Shane Waldron's rankings have not been incredibly superior to the Chicago Bears. It should be noted that Luke Getsy scripted a very good start to a lot of games. So there were mistakes or something like that, but you really have to consider that at the first quarter, where Justin Fields averaged a 112 quarterback rating, they really scripted some good plays, and they scripted themselves all the way down the field quite a bit. So the Bears giving themselves a chance to win every single time. It was the adaptation after that. It was the change on the defense was not being adapted to by the OC. Luke Getsy was not good at changing his pace. He was not good at adapting to the changing schemes during the course of a game. He was not a good game manager. So, and that was to his detriment. But he did script some pretty good games, which is why you see that Shane Waldron seems to have at least as good, maybe even in some situations, a worse appearance on paper than Luke Getsy. So, but at the end, I think we all feel like Shane Waldron is probably the better pickup, either for Justin Fields or for Caleb Williams. And I think that we look at Kerry Joseph, we look at Tim Beatty, we look at Thomas Brown, and all of it feels like an upgrade at every single position. So now the question at this point is, what does Bears quarterback coach Kerry Joseph look for in a quarterback? Very good question. He was asking, what are some of the critical factors you look for that predict success at the quarterback position? And he said, arm talent, accuracy, delivery quickness, physicality, toughness, swagger. You got to have a little swagger. And I mean, does that not really just kind of, in many ways, we can take for what we will, that kind of representative of both Justin Fields and Caleb Williams at this point. And when I say that, I mean confidence. You have to have confidence. And I like to say arrogance, but arrogance to me, all it is confidence under control. He also spoke to Jason Leisert from the Chicago Tribune, As he analyzes films, he has a list of critical factors he tries to identify, and those details fit under the umbrella of his DTA principle, which stands for decision, timing, and accuracy. From there, he's looking for attributes that don't show up on film, especially with draft prospects. He wants to see accountability and responsibility and discern whether players are passionate competitors when the Bears interview them. You've got to know the person. You've got to be a great leader. It starts with the person. Coaching is about relationships. Then you can teach football. So Joseph is coaching with the American team in Mobile, and here are the quarterbacks he's working with right now. Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina, Michael Pratt from Tulane, and South Alabama's Carter Bailey. The Bears have a full contingent of scouts there, so they'll get a look at the national team quarterbacks of Bo Nix, Sam Hartman, and Michael Penix Jr. The Bears have returning starter Justin Fields, backup Tyson Bagent, and free agent to be Nathan Peterman on the roster. And they hold the number 1 overall pick, which could be used on quarterback such as Caleb Williams. So you can see right here that they're really kind of looking at. I would like to think that the Bears seem to be looking at all different aspects right now. Make sure, by the way, that you hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything to support me on this channel. Hitting the like button helps me out tremendously, pushes me up in this algorithm that YouTube has, and it allows more people to come in and view the content. I want to get as many people as I can get in here. By the way, just for you guys to know, this is my job. So I certainly would appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything to hit that like button on the way in. Are you excited to see Caleb paint his nails on game day? Maybe he will paint them a cool orange and blue. I don't care if he does that. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not sure why, and it's really not my job to question. Like I don't. What I care about is arm strength, talent, ability to make decisions on the fly, ability to avoid a tackle, and the ability to move the ball down the field. I don't care what color his fingernails are. I don't care. I don't care if he lose. Look, we lose a game and he cries to his mom every single time. I don't care if he wins more games than he loses. Then the Bears next year go 12-5, and in the 5 games that he loses, he cries to his mom. I don't care. We still won 12 games. So what he does like that, I don't care. Like that, none of that really matters to me. But I will say this, and I do have to quantify that. I'm a Chicago Bears fan before I'm a Justin Fields fan or a Caleb Williams fan. I don't care who the quarterback is. I just care that it gives us the best chance to win. And if the coaches who I have to trust because I don't have a choice, if I have that, if I have to support Caleb Williams, I support Caleb Williams. If I have to support Tyson Bagent, I support Tyson Bagent. If it ends up being Nathan Peterman, okay. I mean, let's just win football games. And if you lose a football game and you want to go cry to your mom, go do it. If you want to do it on camera because it makes you feel better, go ahead. No big deal. But I also think that shows a little bit of a passion to be a winner. And when you're not winning, you can't have that moment where you break down, And I just want to say this regarding Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams thought he was coming back to win his second. I think he was kind of full of himself, and he thought that he was coming back to win his second Heisman Trophy. And he realized in that loss that no matter what he did, his team was going to let him down, and he was not going to win the Heisman. And it didn't matter, by the way. I think his play arguably was better this year than it was last year when he won the Heisman. And he really didn't even get a consideration, because you have to be special at that point. And by the way, I do want to point out, I've always told you, I am a Lamar Jackson fan. Lamar Jackson won the Heisman in 2016 and came back 2017, had a better year, barely got consideration for the Heisman at that point. And I think Johnny Football, you had some other guys that were out there doing some really crazy stuff too. So, but the point is, you really have to show out to do that. And I think he got full of himself. He thought he was going to win a national title with USC. USC was not as good a team as it was in 2022. I think he thought a lot of things that just, started to fall apart and were not true. So it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, who cares if he cries? There's no crying in football. That's not football. That's baseball, remember? And that's Tom Hanks. So, you know what I mean? But also, let's move on here. And this question this is an answer from Gene Chamberlain. It says, why it's possible for the Bears to take the North. Now, if we're analyzing what could happen here in the next season, then what we're looking at is After getting in their chuckles about the Lions gambling finally catching up with them, the Bears fans are left with the realization going into 2024. The first is that Green Bay probably rates as much a favorite for the division title now as Detroit, after going 9-8 with a group of young players and a quarterback in his first year of starting. The second is Detroit had a few players who figured to be bigger contributors next season and were injured in 2023, mainly edge rusher James Houston. The third is the Bears no longer have the most cap space in the NFC North. The Lions now have the most effective cap space at 45.2. However, we talked about this yesterday. The Bears are at 34.7 million. It's actually 46 million, by the way. So I don't think this article is right, but although cutting Cody Whitehair could get them close to the Lions, and if they cut Eddie Jackson, adds about another 18 million. It actually 5 million goes against the salary cap, so it's like 13 million that would count for Eddie Jackson. But this is one of the things we were talking about yesterday, but we didn't really get into. The problem with cutting Jackson is they need to replace another starter who knows what he's doing. Now he's older, he's a little bit older, Eddie Jackson, and he's probably on the downside. But you know what? If you can get one more year out of him, and he's already here, maybe you stick with him. But what this means is Detroit can afford to go out and pursue a ridiculous defensive line signing like Chris Jones just as much as the Bears could if they were left without a franchise tag from the Chiefs. Either way, but here's the thing. The Bears still have to sign Jalen Johnson. It's not just the Bears or the Packers either. If Minnesota finds a way to bring back Kirk Cousins, and with Justin Jefferson back and Jordan Addison with the Vikings, they have a means to attack any defense. Brian Flores' schemes gives them an edge on most opponents, even if they're repeatedly neglecting the personnel aspect of improving their defense. So the issue here is, can the Bears win the NFC North next year? So I'm going to posit that the answer to that is going to be with a much improved defense. And I want to go back and I want to say first, let's go look at the Bears 2023. We're going to go look at the results here real quick. And preseason, we don't want that. Boom, chicka pow pow. All right, so we go into the season with the Packers. Let's take the loss on the Packers and say 38-20, probably not insurmountable. But then the first time we get in with the Vikings, 19-13, Vikings beat the Bears. Now, that is a winnable game. We should have won that game. So let's just consider, at least for the second, that we're probably better than the Vikings. Even if they upgrade their quarterback position, we're probably better than the Vikings. Now, we were also, at this point, we lost 26-31 to the Detroit Lions in a game that we were up by 14 points, or 12 points, I want to say, with 4 minutes and 15 seconds left. And we ended up finding a way to lose that game. That is a little bit crazy. The defense gave up a lot in a short period of time, and we did not compensate for that. And remember, on the first play, with the final play of the offensive drive for the Chicago Bears, Justin did not have a blind side. He had a front side defender coming at him. He got hit, fumbled the ball, and went out of the end zone, ended up being a safety. But the Bears had a chance to beat the Lions. So it could be argued at this point that the Bears are probably a superior team if they continue to improve than the Lions. And the Lions won, by the way. So, let's keep that and put that in our pipe. And then we came back and the Bears took down the Vikings 12-10. Didn't score enough points. Obviously, could be way better, but we won. That's the important part. So we split with the Vikings, and then we split with the Lions by just annihilating the Lions 28-13 in a game that the Lions really kind of needed to win. Then we came back and 17-9 lost to the Packers. And look, it has to be said, and I do want to say this because really it's that final game right there, the difference between Green Bay and the Bears. Justin Fields went 6 for 6 in those scripted plays, and then after that, he threw the ball only 10 times for the rest of the game. Luke Getsy coached his best game as a Green Bay Packer, but he was wearing a Bears jersey. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was unbelievable how little impact they were allowing. Like, basically, they just tried to run the game and keep the score low, which they did successfully, I might add. They kept the score low, but the problem is you didn't give the team a chance to go downfield and win. Only 10 passes in 3 quarters for Justin Fields. against a guy who had, I want to say, Jordan Love threw the ball like 40, almost 40 times, 37 times, I think it was. So they're airing the ball out, trying to win a game. And the Chicago Bears are just trying to like grind out and slosh a running back win. Very bad look. But here's the thing: the Bears were within a score of making that game at least a tie, and had some chances along the way to turn the game around. The fact that they didn't is a testament both to Justin Fields and to Luke Getzey. So, and Justin Fields cannot be without blame when we say these kind of things. Like, look, at the end of the day, your job, my job is to call a play. If I'm a coach, my job is to call a play. Your job is to go out and make that play successful as a player. And as a group of players, that's what you're supposed to do. So it has to be said that even if I'm calling bad plays, I expect you to go out and do those plays the right way and to the best of your ability. So if the defense calls you on it, then fair enough, but you got to do the job. So anyway, back to this. The Packers will have a different defensive coordinator. Normally, it takes at least a short time for players to adapt to their new roles in a new scheme, but it's entirely possible they'd find someone capable of running a system very similar and minimize the impact. This doesn't apply in Minnesota. So what does this really mean? What does this mean to the Chicago Bears? Look, the Chicago Bears are going to be a superior and better team next year. And I think this is the start of what you would call some Bears dominance. I mean, I really think that the Bears have the capacity and the ability to be the best team in the NFC North, despite that there will be some competition, despite that there will be Green Bay Packers are probably going to be a little bit better. But they were not insurmountably better. The Lions, no. We had their number twice. We had their number twice. The Lions, oh my God. The Vikings game, very, very close. So can the Bears find ways to turn those little movements, those little opportunities, turn them around and create victory out of that with an improved defense and an improved offense, assuming we have improvement in both areas? And the answer to that should be a resounding yes. That the Bears were probably the most underperforming team in the league last year, despite having obvious flaws, despite having obvious holes that needed to be addressed. This was still a Bears team that was 5 losses within 7 points, with chances to win each and every one of those games. Like, it's not even and by the way, winning those games turns this team into a 12-5 team, and actually getting some good results against the Packers, which didn't count in that would have been a 13-14. So this is, it's finding a way to win those games. And if we find a way to win those games, this is a far superior team to the rest of the NFC North, and we're just on the cusp of that, especially depending on how this draft plays out and how free agency plays out. So let's move on to free agency right now. And let's talk about this. This is an idea. The Bears players in free agency to sign or bring back. So this is going over a list of the players. So number one, Jalen Johnson. What do we do with Jalen Johnson? Jalen Johnson has to be brought back. It would be my opinion. Now, he might want a lot of money, and we might end up with a franchise tag, and I don't know how he's going to respond to that. I think that might cost us him at one, in the future. Like, he wants to be paid as the elite cornerback in the league, and he grades out as the number one cornerback in the league for most of the season. Coming up from, in fact, as the weeks went on, he got better and better. So it should be. Obviously, he's going to be here next year. That's the important part. Okay. But don't be surprised if their talks with him turns into a franchise tag. They like both the rookies they drafted at the position in the offseason and might like the idea of keeping Johnson around one more year while both continuing to develop and could be the eventual starters. All the positive talk about the signings with the Bears and from polls of keeping Johnson can vanish very quickly. The franchise tag would mean no Johnson at offseason workout, which gives them more time to develop Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith, both rookies coming out. It's going to be their second years. And to be fair, Terrell Smith did a really good job. Not great, but a good job. So it is entirely possible that this ends very, very well. Franchise cost for Jalen Johnson is going to be $18.8 million. So again, we have $46 million in salary cap space. If you move Eddie Jackson, then re-signing him at the franchise fee actually turns into a wash almost. There's about a $5 million discrepancy. So now you still have $40 million with which you can go out and sign another player. Now, if you give him what he wants and you sign him to a long-term contract, which would be a good idea, in my opinion, but I'm not the salary cap guy, then you have that position shored up for a long period of time. But you have Tyreek Stevens, Terrell Smith in the wing just in case you need them. Tyreek Stevenson obviously developed into a very decent cornerback and will only get better into next year. Next up, you have Aaron Brewer from the Titans. Much depends on what they intend to do with their run blocking scheme. There have been so much emphasis on looking at coordinator candidates from the Sean McVay coaching tree that it might mean they're changing up away from the wide zone scheme because McVay has altered his running game away from it. If they hire former Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury as a coordinator, which they will not do, they talked. They'll be ditching the wide zone entirely, which they might possibly do. But this position has been a position problem for the Bears since 2018. Since Cody Whitehair made the Pro Bowl in 2018 and then was switched to guard. It's part of the reason they've been anemic in the third and fourth and short. They need to get it solved. And with a two-pronged approach, starting with Brewer, who's not going to break the bank and is projected to be worth a $20 million deal for 3 years. That's about $5.2 million per year. This really shores up. And this again, you've got Connor Williams out there coming in. I think what his number was about 15 million. So you have some positions and you have some high dollar amounts for that position. But this looks like something that this guy's thinking about is Aaron Brewer coming in at about 5.2 million. So do you think that this is a good idea to bring in somebody like an Aaron Brewer? The better choice would be Connor Williams, who is estimated to be worth 13.5 million, not 15, 13.5, and could fit any blocking scheme because of his versatility. They wouldn't need to draft a center if they sign him. He can play any line position and has. However, the Dolphins free agent center tore an ACL and might not even be available for the start of training camp. So consideration for that. The one thing that we know, Lucas Patrick can't do the job the way we need him to do the job. He has to go, and we need somebody else in that is a position of dire need. Then you have the next one up is wide receiver Curtis Samuel. If you're not bringing back Darnell Mooney, and I do think that Darnell Mooney now has to be merited for consideration at this point, then no one could be a better fit for the Bears as a true slot receiver. If it's Justin Fields or Caleb Williams, they can use the reliable slot guy, considering they've been projected to draft an X-type wide receiver, possibly even in round one. Samuel would give them the necessary complement on the inside of the field. He's also one of DJ Moore's best friends from their days together in Carolina. Look, if DJ Moore is bringing in his coach and Chris Beatty, and you can get his best friend, Curtis Samuel, you might just have a camaraderie that you rarely see in the NFL, and perhaps we now have a much better team. Please make sure, by the way, that you hit the like button on the way in. Helps push me up in the algorithm and certainly would help me tremendously if you guys could take the time to hit that button. Doesn't cost you anything to do. It is, in fact, the like buttons are currently free of charge. So certainly would help me out. We got 23 likes. We got over 50 people currently in the room. So I would appreciate it if you would at least take the time to hit that button. We have 24 likes now. So next up is Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins was a college player from the University of Louisville, which is where I grew up. So he's had a better season against the run than he had last year, but he's also focused more on getting upfield and applying a pass rush and had a career-high 6 sacks. That's a defensive tackle. This is a big guy. Sheldon Rankins actually moves people around. Rankins was an effective player with the Saints earlier in his career and part of the time with the Jets. He could be a better fit for the Bears scheme in a 3-technique role. Playing alongside Andrew Billings would allow him to operate free of double teams. This is a 3-technique who could be signed to play with Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens as they continue to develop. Rankins' market value is projected to be about $10 million. That would be a nice sign. We're talking about at this point, if we can pick up each one of these, we're at $40 million. Curtis Samuel's $11 million, about $39 million a year. So we're looking at 31. Plus, you want to sign your Connor Williams. We're not doing him. We're doing $5 million over here with Aaron Brewer. 27 million. Then you got this. You got 17 million left. Then you got Xavier McKinney. about 8 million. It's a little expensive for what these guys are wanting to do. Some of this doesn't make sense, but let's continue on here. Sheldon Rankins. Now you got Xavier McKinney, safety for the Giants. Now, at this point, if you're not moving on from Eddie Jackson, you don't need this. And again, you could also go with Darnell Mooney instead of Curtis Samuel. I think that he and DJ Moore probably developed a little bit of a relationship playing on the team. So, it could be that this works out. But the need to replace Eddie Jackson, because there's no way they're keeping a player on the payroll who's going to count for 18 million in cap space. When he missed big chunks of consecutive seasons and is in his 30s. This is what I say, right? So if we do that, and then you could move, and by the way, there about 5 million of his salary is going to count towards the count as dead cap space. So that leaves about 13 million. So you could save about 5 million if you could bring in McKinney between 8 million. So 8 and 10 million, you might be able to get a pretty good amount. So let's look at something like that to happen. Then you have defensive end Carl Lawson with the supply of cash dwindling. Lawson becomes a good alternative. They're saying that about 3.15 million a year. DeMarcus Walker's still under contract, so you're still going to have DeMarcus Walker out there doing his thing. But perhaps you bring in somebody else that would certainly help shore up this team. So looking pretty good so far in their selections. But let me know what you think in the comment section. That free agency, to me, okay, not great. Now, as far as the draft goes, we now have a new one because every day NBC Sports Chicago, Justin Fields will fetch a first-round pick in a trade. Now, the Bears have cleared the first two hurdles in a pivotal offseason, hiring Shane Waldron and Eric Washington to be their new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, respectively. That's actually the focus of the many first-day things here. Re-racking the end-of-season mailbag call now that the dust has settled. Some good stuff in the bag, but many questions and thoughts and reactions. Does the decision to keep Matt Eberflus change how they would go with the quarterback situation? The continuity makes me think they should press forward with Field, but is continuity worth more than Caleb Williams? So I don't think keeping Eberflus tips the Bears' hand at all as it pertains to the quarterback decision. Continuity is important. There's no doubt about that, but the Bears already flushed the continuity argument by firing most of the offensive staff. Even if Fields returns, he'll be working under his third offensive coordinator in 4 seasons. Matt Eberflus, of course, went out of his way to tell everybody that that was not an important consideration for them. They were not concerned about that. But the Bears, Fields has a world of talent. His constant improvement has, at the very least, made this more of a conversation than it appeared to be going into week 6 when he dislocated his thumb. He got better as a passer. He started escaping with a passer's mentality and leading to improved quarterback play overall. But I think it will be virtually impossible to pass on Williams and stick with Fields. So, for all of Fields' growth, he still struggled massively during crunch time. Out of 40 quarterbacks who threw at least 50 passes in the fourth quarter, he ranked 39th. Passer rating is 53.4. It's actually 58.4, but close enough. Only Bailey Zapp was worse. He ranked 28th in yards, tied for 26 in touchdown passes, and had the most interceptions had the third most interceptions in the final quarter. So we should at least consider this. I've taken the time to say that I believe that a lot of that has to do with coaching. Justin Fields was poorly coached in the fourth quarter, but at some point you have to take ownership of the fact that maybe Justin Fields just doesn't handle pressure very well. The fourth quarter, that's the pressure time in a football game. That's when you have to do something. Now, it could be that we could say that Luke Getsy calls horrible, and we see it. We see the product on the field. We know that Luke Getsy does not make good calls. We know that he stuck with what didn't work way too long. We know we were incredibly predictable on offense, especially in the fourth quarter. It's almost like everybody we were against knew exactly what we were going to do. There was no creativity to it. So you could argue that Justin Fields suffered by being in that system and became a product of that system. But there has to be some ownership from Justin Fields at that point where you say, look, even if that is the case, there are plenty of plays where you could not throw an interception, maybe. You know what I mean? Or instead of holding it too long and getting sacked, you could just go up the middle and run and at least give us positive yardage. There are plenty of reasons for me to think that Justin Fields has a problem in the fourth quarter. 31 quarterbacks threw at least 20 passes this season while trailing with 4 minutes or less in the game. Fields ranked 29th in passer rating and 28th in completion percentage, and was tied with Jordan Love and Aiden O'Connell for most interceptions. Now, that's not the stat that you want to be tied with Jordan Love with. You know what I mean? He hasn't shown an ability to elevate his game in the got to have it moments. That's the important part. We haven't even talked about the contract part of the Fields Williams discussion. If you pass on the quarterback deemed by one of the three generational prospects since Peyton Manning, you have to have all the evidence you need that the guy you have has everything required to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I do think that uh, we said this yesterday, right? Justin Fields can get you to the Super Bowl. Justin Fields can take you where you want to go, and that is the Super Bowl. Can he win the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter when the game is tight and you need that victory, when you need that play, when you need something to happen? Does a guy with a 58.4 fourth quarter rating, can he do that? And the answer to that, according to the statistics so far, has been no. We can argue, again, that he's been the product of poor play calling, but even if we do say that, then there has to be some accountability that Fields just does not perform well under pressure or under that elite level of pressure in the fourth quarter. That has to at least be a consideration for any team, right? So again, and I do want to preface this and say Justin Fields is my guy. That's the guy that I want to have on the team. That's the guy that I would prefer to have. But I understand if the Bears have to move on. If the Bears feel that this is, if this is the move, then you know what I mean. That you have to do it. So next up, drafting Williams will only lead to success with a totally revamped offensive line and better offensive scheme. Williams is known for his improving plays, but can he really do that 50 plays a game? The Bears just revamped their offensive line last offseason. Right tackle Darnell Wright, right guard Nate Davis, and Tevin Jenkins are locked in. Not a fan of Nate Davis, but I do believe that he's going to improve with a little bit of coaching. Eric Washington, oh my God. Oh my God. Wrong person. Anyway, the offensive line going to be much improved, I think. We'd still got to do something about Braxton Jones. He's got to get better. But the Bears could look to draft a blue chip. And by the way, we need a center position. That's the only variable I think, in my opinion, is Braxton Jones. Like, are we going to stick with him? Are we going to move on? That's the question, right? But they're going to look to draft a blue chip left tackle with the second first round pick. There's a good chance they will have to wait to add competition till later. No, I don't think that that's true. I think that what you're looking for right now is somebody who can catch the ball. As for the scheme, expect new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron to run a much more efficient, explosive attack than the one Luke Getsy was orchestrating. Waldron is known for his versatility, creativity, and adaptability, something that Justin Fields needed but didn't get. He's shown the ability to tailor the offense he runs to the personnel he has at his disposal, something Luke Getsy did not do. Should the Bears draft Williams to pair him with Waldron and a new quarterback coach, Kerry Joseph, I expect the Bears offense to be predicated on what Williams is comfortable with and can excel at early on. Basically, what they're saying is he's going to adapt the offense around whatever the strengths are of the quarterback that he has. So, Caleb Williams, yes. Justin Fields, even, yes. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. The Bears are going to be much better or much less predictable going forward. Do you think the Steelers can convince themselves to trade their first rounder for Justin Fields? Now, the answer that they're saying here is yes. Look, guys, I don't think that's true. They're not going to draft. We're not getting a first round draft pick for Justin Fields. If we do, Ryan Poles will never leave the Chicago Bears. Pay him whatever. If you can get a first round after you fleeced Carolina for DJ Moore, if you pulled that off, if you can get a first round pick for Justin Fields, holy shit. It's going to be my medical opinion. I think the Steelers will be one of the lead contenders for a Fields trade should the Bears decide to move on. I don't, by the way, because they ended up with Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky didn't go very well for them, so I don't think that really resonates. But I think the Las Vegas Raiders, if it comes down to it, would be the team. But don't think he's going to fetch them a first round pick. I've talked to several people around the league, and most of them place his value at a day 2 pick, but they didn't rule out that price rising if multiple teams are interested and get into a bidding war. So the question would be, who's going to get into a bidding war? Because it's not going to be the Washington Commanders, and it shouldn't be the New England Patriots. So who's going to be at war for the services of Justin Fields? Pittsburgh and Las Vegas, and that's it. So I don't think there's going to be much of a. I don't think that's possible, but it's potential. maybe even the Giants. Maybe even the Giants kind of throw themselves into the mix here. So we'll see what happens there. But we also have this. We have another mock draft that popped up, and of course, number one, Caleb Williams continuing. But the reason that I bring this one up, by the way, is because I got my guy in this draft. Now, first pick was Caleb Williams. My guy at number 9, Jared Verse, defensive end out of Florida State. I really like this guy. I like the motor that Jared Verse has. He doesn't take plays off. This guy is he's got the killer instinct that you look for in a defensive end. I would love to see this. Now, problem here is suddenly our offense still doesn't have a wide receiver. So you got DJ Moore, you got Cole Kmet, and then So this would, to me, in order to do this move, which I would love to see, by the way, but in order to do this move, you would, excuse me, it doesn't make sense to me in this regard. You would move this first overall pick down to the third pick. You would allow the New England Patriots to draft Caleb Williams, and you would move down to the number 3 pick, and you would take Marvin Harrison at number 3, because that, to me, is the biggest spot of potential need. In fact, not only, but to change the dynamic of Justin Fields in the event that you could make that move. So, and by the way, I do want to point out that ESPN 670, The Score, went through the process of telling you all of these great picks of quarterbacks over the last bunch of years and how they have not panned out, and how we're looking for the next Mahomes. Well, I think Mahomes was like the 14th or 15th pick. Mitchell Trubisky was the one that we went with, and you saw how that worked out. Deshaun Watson, I think Deshaun Watson to me was the best player, the best quarterback in that draft. But he likes to he likes to do bad stuff with girls, and that did not go very well. And he needed a fresh start, a new start, and stuff like that. So, but that doesn't always work out. Sam Darnold was the number 1 guy not that long ago. Sam Bradford was the number 1 guy not that long ago. Like, there's a lot of guys out here that just didn't work out, that were blue chip, can't miss generational talent quarterbacks in the first round. Blah, 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 blah. Always seems to happen, right? And it's always, by the way, centered around Lincoln Riley's offense. And look, Baker Mayfield, I think he accounted very well for himself this year, despite going out in the first round. I think he accounted for himself very well in his kind of comeback attempt. But this is his third team. Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray's been a disaster in the second half of this year, coming back from an injury, running around dressed like Spider-Man, just wild stuff here. So, I'm not sure that Lincoln Riley and his offense, that's the scheme that I don't know that that's the thing. I don't know that makes, anything, I don't think it makes it better. So I have questions and concerns about Caleb Williams, but look, I'm not the analyst here who has to make that decision. All I have to do is come in here and say, hey, Ryan Poles made a stupid decision, or he made a brilliant decision based on the information that we get. And we'll see the tape. We're going to see, I say the tape, we're going to see what he looks like in combines and stuff like that, or personal or private. We're going to see, they're going to kick the tires. They're going to figure out whether this is the right guy for them. So, we'll see what happens here. But that was the first time that it came up what I wanted here. So, but let's move on now for players. Now, guys, I want you to look at this and look. I'm not picking on this kid because I don't have a reason to pick on this kid. But this is somebody giving a breakdown, and they're giving a legitimate breakdown of Caleb Williams, where you might say Justin Fields, blah 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 blah. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do this. Well, here's Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is in this play right now, and the easy play right now is this defender. There's going to be an open receiver. All right, so right here, the open receiver is going to show up right here where it says Cotton Bowl. Okay, and you're going to see this receiver is wide open. This is the play. This is the hot route right here. And Caleb Williams misses it. Now you can see the guy right here, wide open. Now we're going to move him out of the pocket, and we're going to continue this play just a little bit, and we're going to run this a little bit more. Now look at this one right here. Okay, so you've got this one right here. You've got a wide open touchdown right here at the O on this slot route. It's going to come right in here. He's wide open. Here's Caleb Williams. You've even got the defender moving out here to move the lane, and then you've got the safety all the way over here. This guy is wide open. This is a touchdown getting ready to happen. What does Caleb Williams do? Absolutely misses it. But then what does he do? You have a guy across the middle, wide open, that you're going to see start to develop over here, right there. So you've got this guy that you've already missed. Now you've got this guy wide open. And what does Caleb Williams do? He runs to the corner in the sidelines. This is still the guy. There's also this guy over here getting open in space at the 40. And what do? You throw it down the line. So look, when you say that Caleb Williams is your guy, not exactly. The people who are telling you all the good things, they're ignoring some of the bads that are clearly evident in the decision making that Caleb Williams is doing. So again, it doesn't mean that he's not better than Justin Fields. It doesn't mean that Justin Fields is not better than him. It means that he's still making the same kind of mistakes that are going to cost teams because he's not reading and he doesn't get it right. Now, you can see it right there, wide open, doesn't make the play, still running around in the pocket, still trying to find a way, and we got another guy open right here, and then boom, hit, does not get the touchdown. And by the way, just a couple of minor plays, but those plays do matter. Like, this is what we're saying is, this is the guy. Is it the guy? There's questions that we have to ask. Now, this is a question right now of Caleb Williams. I believe any team considering Caleb Williams needs to think about the high risk from the neck up based on Williams' actions, conduct, and words that he's demonstrated. From painting his fingernails with obscenities. Now, it's not about painting your fingernails. It's about painting F-U-C-K on your fingernails. Probably not the best look when it comes to sportsmanship. You can make that argument. From painting his fingernails with obscenities aimed at opponents to refusing, and it would be F-U-C-K, and then the other hand was U-C-L-A, if you remember, refusing to shake hands with Utah and refusing to speak to reporters after the UCLA game. Williams has given NFL owners and decision makers a lot to talk about. Now, why are they not talking about that? Why is that not a thing that we're going over? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. Like, are we being gaslit into thinking that he's the better guy? Or are we just not yet looking at it critically because we're in Chicago? Maybe we're just looking for, what they're going to do with Justin. Maybe we're not really looking at all the signs. Maybe. He also made a public statement after the Notre Dame game about a fan being like a sheep and referred to himself as a lion. Will he paint some obscenity about the 49ers on his fingernails? Will he jump up into the stands again? Will he put down fans publicly when the microphone is in his face after a loss and he's feeling frustrated? During a press conference, he said, "I want to go home and cuddle with my dog and watch some shows." What will he say in the NFL press conferences? How will he represent his team and his city? What's he going to say or do next? That's the question. He's much closer to Johnny Manziel than Patrick Mahomes on the spectrum. I mean that with respect and sensitivity, but that's what I would say if I was a scout sitting in the pre-draft meetings. What I find incredible is that more people aren't talking about this. Do we not care about him? We witnessed Caleb Williams having a mental breakdown right before our eyes, crying uncontrollably in his mother's arms. To me, as a former NFL scout, he's the most mentally fragile player I've ever evaluated, quarterback or otherwise. He has little experience dealing with adversity, even by his own admission. I've never been in this situation where I'm 7-5 and there are no playoff hopes at the end of the season. I'm dealing with it emotionally, dealing with it spiritually and physically. And now we think he's going to go into a team with a losing record and turn it around. He's 2-9 against ranked college teams on top of it all. And by the way, there was 2 wins that he had in 2022. One was against UCLA and one was against Notre Dame. Those are the only 2 ranked wins that he has so far. He's 2-9 against ranked college teams, and now he's going to do it in a league that's only faster and more complex. Make it make sense. The mental pressure and expectation will be unbearable from day one. Training camp will look more like a rock concert. Every practice throw will be followed by paparazzi, completion percentages in practices, all of which it will become a public spectacle. The expectations are he's Superman, but in reality, he's 22 years old. Statistically and on game film, Williams regressed in 2023. Now, that's not true. I don't think that that's true. And there's arguments that could be made both ways in that. This is not headed in the right direction. I get team fan bases wanting to win and the mainstream media feeding off of that hope, but underneath, we have to care about Caleb Williams as a person more than anything. I personally feel for the young man. He's in an impossible situation. Watch his post-game press conference on YouTube over the last 6 weeks of this season. Watch his body language and his eyes. Listen to his tone. Watch how he carries himself. His energy level is lower. He looks aloof. Look at his posture on the bench after the loss to Utah, all slumped over. He's given us the signs. Even his team responded with more spirit and enthusiasm when quarterback Miller Moss made his first start in the absence in the Holiday Bowl. Now, guys, I want you to remember, and I hate this, but because again, I'm a Louisville fan, but Miller Moss came in, I think there's 7 touchdowns against Louisville. And look, and here we go. The Trojans were heard reportedly shouting, "We a team now, we a team now," after the upset against Louisville. Quote by Miller Moss, read between the lines. I don't think it's as much about me as it is about the team. The emphasis is really to come together as a team. No ego, no individual. It's all about us as a team bonding together, and that's what we are focused on moving forward. Now, what does that say to you about Caleb Williams? And look, you don't have to be honest right now because I'm not here for your honesty. I'm not, you don't have to make that decision to me. But this guy is saying this should be an absolute warning sign about Caleb Williams. And there's the FU. That's you at UCLA. So no, you should have concerns. Okay, you should have concerns about Caleb Williams, and you should really think about this before we jump into it. Also, the Bears on quarterback Justin Fields created the Justin Fields Foundation. In the meantime, while we've got Caleb Williams melting down and checking out and needing mental health days or whatever it is that he needs, we've got Justin Fields out here creating the Justin Fields Foundation to support the youth of Chicago. And by the way, let me not say I'm not blind to the fact that I'm steering this in a specific direction by pointing out something negative on Caleb Williams and pointing out something positive on Justin Fields. But I think I just pointed out that Justin Fields has a 58.4 QBR in the fourth quarter and has cost this team games and has not shown up, even if I can attribute some of it to bad play calling. A lot of this still is on Justin Fields not performing. But outside, he's been perfect and an exemplary model of what we would hope for in a quarterback in this city. And he has the experience here to already do that. And he said, I really love Chicago. And this came from a desire to strengthen the community. So I just want to point this out. Like, this is the guy that we're thinking that we want to replace. That'd be a good idea that we just got rid of him. And then Chicago Bears, when we put out the other day, the highlight reel on Justin Fields, we should also point out that they did one on DJ Moore. DJ Moore going to be here for a while. We did get a contract with him, so he's here for a couple more years. And look, this team is only going to get better. He's got his buddy Chris Beatty here. Maybe Curtis Samuel comes in to help him along. And then this is in closing here, and we do have to be critical sometimes. Ryan Pohl's done a great job of building this team, but we should at least recognize, and this is from @DeBears_26. Jake knows ball, and he says trading Roquan away. These are the list of things that Ryan Pohl has done. He traded Roquan away. He let David Montgomery leave. He traded for Chase Claypool, and he drafted Velus Jones Jr. And look, trading away Roquan Smith, was that a good or bad move? I mean, you guys decide for yourself. We have Edmonds. These guys have come in. They've done a remarkable job, but are they Roquan? I don't think that they are. And that's no disrespect to them. There can only be like one, elite player, or there's always a better player. You know what I mean? Unless you're the absolute best. Now, Roquan Smith probably checks out as one of the elite players, and maybe just maybe this team was even better with Roquan than without. Also, letting David Montgomery walk. Now, look what David Montgomery did for the Detroit Lions in the past year. David Montgomery, one breath away from a Super Bowl in switching teams. So David Montgomery, better by walking away, going away, by getting traded, by letting him go and not doing anything about it. But here's the thing for me. I feel like when I say that, it's disrespectful to Khalil Herbert. That it's disrespectful to Roshan Johnson, who they drafted, and to Deonta Foreman, all of which have been great players. So did the running back room suffer from letting David Montgomery walk? No, but David Montgomery is still the best running back of those four, and I don't know that it's close. Now, I think David Montgomery is an elite level running back at this point, and we let him walk. Then we traded for Chase Claypool to give him a chance. Now, I want to say this because in reading this, I thought about it. I thought, yeah, we did trade for Chase Claypool, but we really thought that he had untapped potential and that maybe we could do something. It didn't cost, it wasn't expensive to get Chase Claypool. And I do want to stress that after dumping Chase Claypool in the middle of the season, Chase Claypool had one reception for 6 yards for the rest of the season. He's a mental head case. But here's the thing. We took a mental head case and we gave him a chance when we probably should not have done that. That doesn't make any sense for us to have done that. And then we drafted Velus Jones Jr. And look, Velus Jones, it's possible that Velus Jones at this point turns around everything. We saw a dynamic athlete with a lot of opportunity here, a good receiver that we might be able to work into this team. We look for a lot of different things. We had a lot of pie in the sky hope for Velus Jones Jr., and he has been for a long time. It was an unmitigated disaster. Now, to the Bears' credit, they did stick with him and let him work through some of his issues, but those issues cost us games. Like they cost us position on the field. He was anything you saw from Velus Jones Jr. for a long stretch was just negative because every time he touched the ball, he did something wrong. Like that was not great. It was not optimal. Now, I would like to say that towards the end, the last 6-7 games of the season, he kind of disappeared from all of that smack talk and stuff, and he just kind of, I think, put his head down, and he did better. He did better. Now, when I go back over this, let's go back to the win list here, and let's look at this. Less than $1 million in dead cap accrued over 3 years. The defense went from 32 to top 10. This is Ryan Poles, by the way. So rushing offense top 2 for 2 years running. Top 2 in interception 2 years running. Offensive line built up from 32 to top 15. Hopefully going to get better. Turned Roquan's cap hit into Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards for less than Roquan received from Baltimore. So maybe good. Remember, we have to take the L's, but these are a lot of W's. Undefeated when selecting defensive backs. Brisker, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith. Avoided taking an overhyped free agent. That was Chase Young, by the way. Selected the best offensive tackle in the draft at number 10. 2023 1.01 traded to Carolina for Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, and DJ Moore. What an amazing get that was. 2024 round 1 first pick and 2025 round 2 pick, and then 11 slowly expanding depth through. That's a lot of subjective stuff here, but kept Chicago in cap heaven for 3 years. Re-signed Komet prior to his breakout. Hit a home run with Andrew Billings, and select our franchise left tackle in round 5. So he's got some wins here. So let's give him credit. Did a great job so far. Hopefully, this Bears team is only going to improve. But that is my time for the day, guys. It's time to get going. It is time to get to the gym and get the swole on. So I will talk to you guys later. I didn't get a chance to get into chat. I hope you guys had a great day. Hope you guys had fun in chat. And by the way, if you want to see your chats coming up like this, then the place that you do that is Super Chat. So if you want to contribute to the team and talk about the team, then we're always willing to do that. But thank you so much for tuning in. And until the next time, bear down, Chicago Bears.